Hello, everybody. Samori Benjamin here with Drew Saunders. This is episode 2 of the Roaring Lions podcast. And Drew and I, again, we met at Columbia University in the Graduate School of Journalism, got our master's degrees in journalism, and this Sports and Politics podcast. And this, we were going to do another show, folks, but Charlie Kirk situation took place a few days ago, and so that really was the biggest story in the country. So it's something that we definitely had to talk about. And folks, those watching, and as I told Drew when it happened, because Drew emailed me because when it happened, and first I had never heard of Charlie Kirk, folks, and which some of you all may find is crazy, but I will say the smartest man that I know, my father, had never heard of him either. And I may read an essay that he wrote on Charlie Kirk. So that made me not feel as bad. But then when I found out who he was and the things that he said and preached, I can see why I really did not know who he was, because he is not someone who I would spend any time listening to. But he is someone who, wow, I mean, I can't believe the things that I've seen and listened to and heard that he has said. And what really really astonishes me is that there are a lot of people, a lot of prominent public people, figures, who have no shame in saying that they were fans of this guy's, big fans, and they sound heartbroken over what has happened to him. And it's sad anytime somebody gets killed. I mean, clearly, like I'm someone who I think either the last show we had, or it might have been our practice show, I said, like, I hate guns. I hate guns. I'm someone who would rather everybody fight, settle their differences with their fists. Guns kill people. So I'm someone who I wouldn't be shooting anybody, but we know the rhetoric that Charlie Kirk has said with the Second Amendment, or Drew, correct me if I say this wrong. I'm paraphrasing, but something of the effect Charlie Kirk said. After one of the mass shootings, school shootings, he said we have to sacrifice human lives for the betterment of the Second Amendment, something like that, right?
Yeah,
Which
he actually said that that having in the second having a few mass shootings here and there is worth it in order to have the Second Amendment. I'm also paraphrasing, but yeah, that is basically what he said. It makes
I mean,
me
right.
it makes me actually interested in when you first started Googling him and started doing your due diligence on him. What were the first things that you found about him that really that really stood out to you?
Okay, well, to be honest, the day it happened, you started getting all these different videos in your social media feed of him talking, like all kind of reckless things. I mean, talking about one of the first things I saw was he was saying that black women were not smart and not qualified to do any kind of serious job. And I heard him say that Martin Luther King Jr. was not a good person, and that Clarence Thomas was a better representation of a black person who black people should look at as an example. And I mean, just vile, like, nonsense that, I mean, really will enrage a group of people. I mean, and so those were two things. I mean, for him to say what he said about Dr. King, talked about him like a dog, and to bring up Clarence Thomas, who the black community can't stand, and say that he is somebody who is more upstanding and more worth following and a better leader than Dr. King. I mean, that's something right there that okay, we'll have people on your behind. And then he said, anytime you see the black person at a job, he wonders if they're qualified. Right? I mean, that's just blatant racist stuff, right? And I want to. Okay, so I want to also read something that I did pull from one of the articles, to be more specific, because you asked me this question, and there were some things that I marked because I definitely wanted to make sure that I read this. Okay, so this article published on September 13th by Reuters. It says history of Charlie Kirk's anti-black, anti-immigrant remarks. Kirk dismissed affirmative action in diversity, equity, and inclusion programs and people he perceived as having benefited from them. He called the country's passing of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 a huge mistake. Okay, so that is a clear, blatant comment. I mean, someone who can say that is a blatant racist. I'm sorry. To say that the Civil Rights Act of 1964, okay, which helped wipe out segregation and Jim Crow, was a huge mistake. I mean, that right there is I mean, come on. Then on a July 2023 episode of his show, he said TV personality Joy Reid, former First Lady Michelle Obama, the late Rep. Sheila Jackson Lee, and Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson did not have the intelligence to achieve what they did without affirmative action. Quote, you had to go steal a white person's slot to be taken somewhat seriously, he said. I mean, that right there is blatant racism. I mean, and so for anyone who can say they are a fan of this guy, like I said, so many prominent public figures who had no shame in saying this, okay, over the last few days. Like really, folks, really? I mean, they all should be ashamed of themselves. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, I mean, anybody who supports this guy, I'm sorry, you're racist, okay? Period. That's how I feel, So, and then it goes, all right, so those right there are some strong examples. I mean, that right there, and I want to point out that here in New York City, and there's a national sports radio talk show with a host Boomer Esiason and all that. Former NFL quarterback, he won the NFL MVP award in 1988, and he's a real big deal. He comes on his radio show the morning after Charlie Kirk was killed, and he is talking about how he's a big fan of his and how he's angry. He's angry and talks about how he's such a big fan of his, how he's angry, and then he says they killed him, they took him out. Like Boomer, who is they? Who is they? You know what I'm saying? I mean, and this is the guy who, I mean, he would like to tell you that he is not a racist and that he, played with black players and all this. I mean, but this guy, anybody who can feel strong love for Charlie Kirk, to me, has serious problems. Okay. Now, my final thing before I'll let you take over, Drew, I just want to mention how Yankee Stadium on Thursday, 9/11, Donald Trump, President Trump, whatever, was at Yankee Stadium. And he was more than at Yankee Stadium. He was in the Yankee clubhouse, and it was broadcast, and members of the team were around him. Aaron Judge, who is the biggest star in baseball, the biggest star, he was there. Donald Trump was in there, obviously using the Yankees, using Aaron Judge because that's what Donald Trump does. And he was buttering up. You know how Donald Trump can butter people up. He gets every time he gets these athletes. Every time he gets these athletes around them to the White House, or he gets around them, he butters them up. He butters up Judge and all this, and Judge is there. I mean, Judge is in a tough spot. He's in a tough spot, okay? Uh, and he goes along with it, okay? He is all Google-eyed with a lot of people when they see, quote unquote, the president. And, for a lot of people seeing that, the Yankees, doing that, Trump there and all this, it was very disappointing for a lot of people.
Charlie Kirk was an inflammatory figure who was long a darling of the right, really the far right, and an antagonist of the left. His murder, though, was still wrong. But trying to paint him as a hero or a martyr is also a sign of societal ills. I mean, he has a long history of inflammatory remarks, as you've already laid out, taking trolling stances on race, women's rights, and LGBT rights to new heights. A lot of the reason why there was such a big manosphere push for Trump is due in no small part to the popularity that Kirk built online in with a certain type of young men. According to William Tufton of Wired, Kirk, as you said, called Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at a 2023 conservative convention, quote, awful. And quote, I want to make sure that I'm clear that I'm quoting what this journalist said, Kirk said, and this isn't me saying this. He said, quote, uh, he was not a good person. He said one good thing he didn't actually believe, unquote, regarding King's belief on race. And as you pointed out, it doesn't take much digging to find even more. Um, uh, Kirk's whole thing was that he was a big part of leading the charge against DEI and any sort of pro-diversity sentiment in American life. He was a very good debater. You can't deny that he just was. He was on the campus in Utah, or because he made his name by insisting that he was working in the name of free speech with his visits to college campuses across the country, asking people to prove him wrong while he argued things like all pro-diversity efforts were anti-right racism, and any attempt to make college and the DEI and diversity was not any sort of attempt to make college fairer across race, gender, and class lines. He also used these platforms to insist that climate change wasn't real and that women were miserable because of feminism and so on. Uh, but I think perhaps the most telling thing about this is the whole thing is the social media back and forth from the right and the left. After Kirk's murder, his fans and sympathizers were so outraged and so eager to blame trans people or people of color or any kind of minority. And then Tyler Robinson, a straight Christian white man, was arrested and they suddenly shut up. Well, not entirely, but they mostly shut up. And there's been a lot of gloating from the left in response. I mean, I get that. I get why people are doing that, but it's unhelpful. Do we really care about doing the right thing and uniting the country or making things better, or do we care about fights on social media with usually with strangers? Um, um, and Kirk's critics. Plus another thing, the man who was arrested has been accused of a crime. But he's not been found guilty yet. Um, Everyone's jumping to conclusions about his guilt because they were jumping to conclusions about who their pet villain was, who they all assumed was guilty of the crime before we even knew who the police had and the FBI had arrested. Um, and Kirk's critics also love to bring up the irony that Kirk has, as you said, made a a big part of his career in insisting that mass shootings are a price worth paying in order to have the Second Amendment, and then his murderer used a gun to kill him. Um, People keep are twisting the knife as well about his Christian nationalist beliefs and arguments by quoting Jesus from that part in the Bible where he's being arrested in the garden, and he stopped his followers from fighting the Romans arresting him by saying, "quote He who lives by the sword dies by the sword." Quote. But is that actually going to win an argument with anyone? Is actually going to make anything better? And this shooting was not the only one that even took place in Colorado that day. Another shooting at another school happened at Evergreen High School in suburban Denver that very same day. And that's been buried because everyone's talking about Charlie Kirk's murder. The most newsworthy thing, though, was Trump's response. The typical thing for a president to do in his position is to try and reunite the nation, double down on the rule of law, and try to turn down the temperature. Instead, Trump went partisan. And that's something that no president's ever done before.
Yeah, President Trump is clearly unfit to be president. I mean, he is the most divisive, ignorant president that we've ever had. I mean, that may some people may not like how I said that, but it's the truth. Anybody who is objective can look at this and see that it's the truth. And it's just sad that this country could reelect somebody who tried to overthrow the government, right? Tried to overthrow an election. You know, had set a riot upon the Capitol where people died, police officers died. All right. He claims to be the law and order president, all this nonsense. I mean, there's a complete mockery of our system and what we're supposed to be about. And all these people who claim they care so much about their country, they're all full of crap, all of them. They just, they want things to go backwards and go back to times where a lot of people, all right, did not have rights, and I mean, it's and I mean, one thing that I do want to say is that I hear people say that the right and the left are the same, like they're extremism. is the same on both sides. I think that's like completely nonsense, and I think that's wrong. I think that, and then some people say, "Oh, Republicans, they fight harder." I heard somebody told me today that Republicans are more aggressive. Like, to me, I feel like the Republican Party, these far right guys, whatever you want to call it, Donald Trump, the party led by Donald Trump, the most crooked, corrupt person that God ever blew breath in. All right, yeah, those people, that party, they're corrupt and crooked, and they'll do anything to win, get over. To me, Democrats, I feel like they don't stoop down to the crooked, corrupt level of Republicans. I feel like the Democrats trying to have moral ground, high moral ground, and Republicans don't. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this Charlie Kirk person, like to me, there's no one on the quote unquote left who says the inflammatory things that this guy says, the blatantly racist things that this guy says. There's no one of the equivalent on the left who is as big and as popular and as influential as this guy. Where if quote unquote people on the left were open fans of him, these people will not be getting criticized for just being horrible racist people. But when it's a guy on the quote unquote right saying all this racist, blatantly racist rhetoric, he gets away with it, and to the point where you have people fans of his who have the balls who had the balls, all right, to come out and say that they are fans of this guy. Well, he's blatantly racist. So yeah.
Yeah. Um, I agree. Like the I agree that Kirk's rhetoric is only got away because of of who he is. If he was not who he was, he probably wouldn't have gotten away with what he does. Charlie Kirk, I think, was a figure who was an example of just how far you can go in this country by trolling and by gaming the rhetoric
Let me
that goes on um, in order to further yourself. I mean, he
let
became
me
a
ask you.
wealthy man doing this.
Sorry to cut you off, but do you think this guy, where as popular as he is, influential, where people, a lot of public figures are coming out saying, "Oh, I love this guy," and he is as divisive and blatantly, a bigot like this guy is. I mean, do you know anybody the equivalent on the left?
I can't think of anyone.
Okay.
Yeah,
I,
they'll try to say things like AOC um
yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
but that's really
Right.
uh,
And all AOC is doing is just trying to, fight for humanity, in a country where a lot of people are being left behind. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
yeah. I
so
mean
like that,
they accuse her of trying to destroy America when she's like arguing for like a living wage and that sort of thing.
yeah, yeah, which makes, anybody who, like stuff I'm saying, like their whole rhetoric, it's the people, to me, I feel like the people who believe that, I mean, because its rhetoric doesn't make sense. I mean, talking about humanity here, and you're talking about wrecking the country when they support somebody who really wanted to wreck the country, Donald Trump. I mean, this guy, again, he said a riot, you know, but to everybody listening out there, there's no comparison. Like y'all can't try and bring AOC or any of these other progressives on the left. You can't try and bring them down in the same category as someone like Charlie Kirk or Donald Trump. Okay, who any objective person can see that. All right, Trump should be in jail right now. Okay, all right. I mean, come on. And so this is the guy. Donald Trump is the leader of all this. And again, he's been convicted. Okay, he's a felon. He's a fraud. So, and I mean, and Donald Trump loves this guy Charlie Kirk so much. I mean, that's why Charlie Kirk. That's why someone like Charlie Kirk is able to get away with what he gets with. Because look who the president is. Okay, so
Yeah, and I agree. I think that Charlie Kirk is a perfect example of how well certain people in certain positions like his how far can do and how far they can get by trolling. Um, and I agree that his rhetoric on race, on guns, on women's rights, on LGBT rights, um, was toxic, but also, um, again, we also agree that, murdering him in public is wrong, and
Yeah, right.
it also the but also the it's wrong because it exposes when something like this happens just how dangerous a moment we're in, where we have so many people on the right who are fans of his, like calling for violence, calling for civil war in the response to this, like as though this is the assassination of Martin Luther King.
Right.
I think it demonstrates what a dangerous moment this has all led to.
It just shows to me how many racists there are in the country. You know what I'm saying? And Donald Trump talking about, oh, make America great again. Like that's code word for okay, racist. Okay, let's go backwards, okay, and take away rights from black folks and everybody else that, all the progress that we have made. Uh and I mean, when you have someone like Charlie Kirk, to me, again, I'll say it. Like to me, he was a horrible person, period. All right. And anybody that follows him is a horrible person. And you got this guy talking about, you have these kids and all kind of innocent people, all right, just being killed by weapons, these guns that should not be on the street. Anybody, any old fool, crazy person, in a lot of these states can go walk to a gun store and get their driver's license and get a gun, get any kind of high-powered gun. Like it's ridiculous. It's a joke. And we got weak politicians who, all right, don't do anything about it. And Charlie Kirk, he makes the statement, oh, we can sacrifice lives for the betterment of the Second Amendment, whatever he said, okay. And then he gets shot. I mean, look, like you can't make it up. You can't make it up. Like, I mean, is anybody supposed to feel sorry for him? I mean, he doesn't feel sorry for all the innocent victims being killed, being slaughtered by guns, and he goes and makes this statement, okay, talking about what he say, like you can't have empathy or whatever. He made that statement too, like he doesn't have empathy or whatever. And so,
Yeah,
like I said, you can't make it up. So like I mean, he pretty much he pretty much he pretty much brought death on himself with everything that he said. Like 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 really. I mean, like, am I saying something that's wrong here? I don't know. Please let me know.
yeah. Well, yeah. He actually, let me find the exact quote. Hang on a second.
Yeah.
Uh,
And the guy was traveling with heavy security. You can see uh where he was on the campus in Utah. He had security all around because he knew that he was saying things that enraged a lot of people and that he had people who, you know, had problems with him. I mean, people say there's freedom of speech and all that. Yeah, there's freedom of speech, but there's accountability and consequences for what you say. And if go out there and blatantly enrage people and say things that are just wrong, you're going to have a lot of people who are going to want to take you out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he brought it on himself. That's how I see it. If I was him saying reckless stuff the way he did, but like again, he knew that he was saying reckless stuff. That's why he had security all around him. Crazy man, it's crazy. And
yeah,
then this guy, from what I believe, was a community college dropout or whatever, and he's trying to say that all these black women are not qualified for these high positions. This guy was a community college dropout. Like who is he? You know what I'm saying?
yeah. I think he did go to college. I don't think that he ever actually got his degree.
Yeah, exactly.
Da, 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 da.
And he's talking about black people who are not qualified. He doesn't even have a degree. Please, he
Yeah,
needs.
yeah. And let me just make sure on something. Uh, yes. Well, all right, we're about to run out of time, but I do want to. Yeah. Um, yes. The He was actually quoted. Um, hang on. Uh, yeah. Um, Kirk. And you brought up empathy. Charlie Kirk actually said at one point that he um doesn't like the term empathy. He called it a he called it. Uh, uh, yeah, you brought up empathy. Kirk actually at one point was debating empathy and politics, and he said that he didn't like it because he thought it was a made up New Age uh, argument. And he said, according to the CBC, he said, "I can't stand the word empathy. Actually, I think empathy is a made up New Age term that does a lot of damage." Unquote. Um, so the make that of that what you will. I have empathy for his daughters who were there when he was murdered, but
Yeah,
and I again, but you
and,
know,
and yeah,
but you have that quote on your record.
yeah. I mean, and here's the thing. Okay, everybody's talking about how okay, you have empathy for his daughters and his family. Of course, we all do. But this guy is responsible to me for all of his family's grief because if he wasn't so pompous, I'm sorry, I mean, if you see this guy, how can you not think that he's anything but pompous? If he was not so pompous, he wouldn't have ran his mouth the way he did and not put himself in danger. Like him saying all the stuff he said, all right, he sold his soul. Another example of somebody selling their soul to the devil. And I'm not a big religious person. That's a saying, okay. He sold his soul to the devil. Okay. Yeah, he's gonna go, say all these things to get him, quote unquote, get him clicks, get him attention, get him followers. Well, when you say that divisive stuff that's blatantly racist, okay, blatantly showing you're a bigot and you don't care, okay, in a country that was built off of racism and slavery and segregation, okay. Now, and you are appealing to people who want to go back there, okay, and you say all these things that are wrong, then you're putting yourself in a position to get got. I mean, so nobody has anybody more to blame than what happened to him themselves. So he should have had more concern for his family than he did. He should have shown the same concern for everybody who had concern for them now that he's gone. He should have showed that concern when he was here and not have run his mouth the way he did, and he would still be here. So that's the way I see it. You know what I'm saying? And the people who are his supporters, they don't have any accountability, and that's the problem. No accountability. No accountability when Trump, all right, sets a riot on the Capitol and people die, police officers die. No accountability. With him, getting killed because, all right, he's reckless. And the person that shot him, okay, like Boomer Esiason said on the radio show on the next morning when Charlie Kirk was killed, and Boomer Esiason said, quote unquote, they took him out. No. The person that took him out was another white guy from Utah who, all right, he wasn't on the left, he wasn't a liberal or anything, okay. All right, a guy from Utah, he got shot in Utah. Okay, so yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and like I said, people are so ju quick to jump to conclusions on who shot Kirk, but I'll be very interested in finding out the motivations of this guy who appears to be from a very conservative family. But let's just take our time and just see what happens, folks, on find out what the real motivations are and really get to the truth because that's what the rolling line is about. It's what journalism is about. And
yeah.
the truth is going to come out soon, and we will be covering it. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.
See y'all later.
Yeah.